Hopefully you guys are all seeing my desktop there now. Okay, kia ora. Hello and welcome everyone to our 6th webinar to date, ActivInspire and Maths, a piece of cake. Now, I'm afraid I've jam-packed things in today, so I'm going to jump straight in, and I'm probably going to be motoring quite fast to get finished in the time frame. Remember that you can watch this recording as many times as you like from our Promethean ANZ YouTube channel. So if you don't pick it up this time round, don't worry too much, you can re-watch it. Also, as Laurie said, do ask questions as you go. He and Yvette are answering those on the chat function, but they don't get to answer them if you use Q&A, so make sure you use the chat function. Okay, without further ado, let's jump in. So here's our agenda today. Now, we usually have quite a wide audience in terms of experience or confidence. So I've tried to cater for this, and what I'm going to try to do today is to show you all a range of examples and ideas which are very simple, quick to do, use or prepare. Pretty much everything we're looking at today falls directly under the number strand of the Australian or the New Zealand curriculums. In fact, any maths curriculum globally, I would imagine. Specifically though, I'm focusing on ideas to help build number knowledge or to help reinforce place value understanding. That being said, we're actually going to start with what I call or what I am calling some general maths basics. So it's maths lesson time, and I would simply like some grid paper to write on so that I can model writing 1 digit per square, or so my lovely students can use the grid paper for working out or setting out problems. Now, if I come over to my browser and I go to the second icon along at the top on the left, and straight underneath that, the shared resources, I have got a folder in here called grids. And if I unroll that folder by clicking on the wee triangle there, plus for Windows, I have a grid paper, an XY lined paper folder, not paper, grid, and I can just drag that across and onto my page. Now this is great, but for my purposes, I'm going to be writing on the screen. It's a little bit small. I would like those boxes to be a bit bigger, and I also don't like the dominance of the black color. I'd like it to be blue, like my students' books. So I'm going to edit this grid, and I do that by right-clicking on my page and choosing the grid designer. Now, don't worry about this. It looks all very complicated. You just use the plus button up the top here like this to make your squares bigger or smaller, as the case may be. And of course, down here we have got the color, and I'm just going to choose blue, and there you have it. I've now got some lovely grid paper that I can model writing 1 digit per square. Now, that was easy enough to do, but I also like to show you the most efficient way to do things, and what I've found is the most efficient way, or the least number of clicks, is instead of going into the library and fishing around for that folder, I simply right-click on my page straight away and choose Grid Designer. Now at the top of Grid Designer, there's a little box on the left, it says Visible. If you put a tick mark in there, there is that grid that I pulled out of the library before. It's your default grid basically, and I can change the size and the color just as I previously did. And so now if I pick up my pen over here, I can come and write on the board. I'll write up here 21 take away 9 equals. Okay, might be a problem that we're going to be solving in a moment. Now, the other maths basic that I wanted to go through with you was maths tools. Now, remember that you can find your tools in a number of ways. Up at the top of your screen, you've got some menu tabs. You've got a tools menu tab, all right? Over on your toolbar, if I was to go to my main menu, I have those same menu tabs, and I can get my tools there. But if I'm going to be using my toolbar, I might as well come down to the tools icon down here, which is the crossed hammer and spanner. And then we're just going to maths tools. Now, I'm just going to be pulling out and looking at the ruler today, but I do encourage you to have a look at all of the other maths tools that are in there. Now these are awesome tools. They're not just images that sit over top of things on your page. They actually have actions or things attributed to them to make them work. You can see at the moment that my cursor on the screen is an X. I call that the grab me, pull me X. I've just seen pop up something about Mac. I'll have a look at that in a minute. If I move my cursor up and down into the scale area of the ruler, you can see I have a rotate symbol, and if I click, I could rotate my ruler there. And if I move to either end of my ruler, I can stretch or shrink my ruler as I would like. I can change the scale of my ruler. Now, because I've used this and changed the scale already today, it's remembered that, but usually it opens on inches. You can change top and bottom scale to suit. And of course, the beautiful thing about the math tools is that you can have multiple on at once. Okay. There we go. And it could be that I'm using this because I've got two students who are going to come up to the board and show me two different methods of solving this problem using the ruler as a number line, because rulers can be an excellent tool for number lines and for helping. Okay, so it might be that I have one student come up and they're going to start at 21, and I just have to hover a little bit off the ruler because the pen does stick like glue. So I'm going to do 9 jumps backwards. Oh, hang on a minute, that was 9 jumps, wasn't it? And each one of those, obviously, the student has taken away one, taken away one, taken away one. It might help if I actually use my drawing implement I've got over here. And this student's going to go, well, my method is starting at 21, not 22. I'm going to jump back 10. I know that would be 11. And then I have to add 1 back. So obviously a different method used there that we can see. So rulers, helpful as number lines too. Now to get rid of the ruler off the page, I can click on that little note icon in the middle and I can close it, or I can drag it to, oops, to the bin like so and get rid of it off the page. Okay. Laura, did you want to jump in quickly with that question about the Mac?
Yeah, the question, Claire, was Macs don't have a right click, so...
Right, so right clicking on your Mac, if you're on a keyboard, control click. So with your mouse cursor turned on, I'm using a Mac keyboard at the moment, I'm pushing control and I push click on my keyboard and look at that, right click menu. Okay, easy. Okay, moving on. You have got lots of other maths basics that have already been done for you and are just waiting to help you out in your maths lessons, as long as you know where to find them. Take this 100 square, for instance. This is one of many pre-made maths activity pages. You can find the pre-made activities for many learning areas, not just for maths, and they are in your resource library. So once again, that second icon along from the left, your shared library, and the top folder there that everyone should have, activities and templates, unroll it. Let's look in activities, unroll that. Here are our hundreds grids sitting there, and if you look a bit further down my list here, you'll see maths activities, and you've got heaps and heaps in there. Okay, they're pre-made pages. The people have done all of the hard work for you. So for an instance, I know I've showed this one before if you're a regular webinar goer, so I apologise, but I love it. I think they've done a great job. They have made you lots of different coloured squares that you can use as counters or flood fills for things. So here we are, we're doing some skip counting here. And you'll notice that they've already set snap to grid for you so that you just get close to or a large portion in that square and it's going to jump into the square. You've got multiple colours so that if you're then going on to explore the patterns, let's say you're looking at the 2s, 4s and 8s times table, and the fact that, you know, each one is double the one before, you can have those patterns highlighted on the screen. And you've also got these little ones here, which at first glance you might think, oh, that's nice. They've just, instead of flood filling the box for us, they are putting a ring around them. But they're doing more than that. Those are filled with magic ink. And if you click on this black box down the bottom, it blacks out the grid. However, magic ink is a tool that lets you see through layers, and so we can see through to the grid underneath. And these are excellent for things like your number work or your place value work, where you're saying, okay, what's one more, what's one less, what's 10 more, what's 10 less, and so on. Okay. Also, something to note about the pre-made pages, most of them have notes. So if you're unsure how to use them, or you're after different ideas for using a hundreds grid, then you've got some instructions and ideas in the notes browser there. To open the notes browser, I simply clicked on that little sticky post-it note at the top of my page. If there are no notes on a page, this note browser is missing. So not every page has one. Sorry, not every activity page will have one, but many, many do. All right, moving quickly on. You also have, sorry, I'm moving ahead of my script. You also have squillions, I don't even know if that's a word, I think it is, squillions of other ready-made resources waiting for you in your subjects folder. Now, you should see your subjects folder at the bottom of that library stem. If you don't see it, if your library stops at sounds, and you're absolutely sure you've scrolled down to the bottom and it's not just simply hiding there like that, then you probably haven't loaded or haven't had loaded by your IT people the subjects folder. Now, I'll put a link to it here. That is because you are able to search for this flip chart I'm using today. It's a slightly different one actually, because I've hacked out quite a few of the examples in my original flip chart. But you will have the link here to where you can go to download that resource pack. So it's the subjects resource pack, but it's called, just to confuse you, the ActivInspire resource pack. So when you follow that link or you search for it on the support site, support.prometheanworld.com, it's that one. You download it. More than likely it will go into your downloads folder. You go and find it, you double click on it, you choose shared resources as the option when it asks you, and it loads it in here for you. It will want to index your library. That can take 5 minutes or so. If you've got the time, let it do it. That means that you then have search function available straight away. You can let that index happen at any time. For search to work, it does have to have index, but if you're not going to be searching and you're in a hurry, do it at a later date. Now, I've pulled on some resources here just to remind me to talk about them. So in the subjects folder, as you can see, we've got loads of different subject folders. In mathematics, we've got loads of different folders in there. We're going down to numbers. Okay, if I open my numbers, there we have number lines. So I've pulled on number lines, and as you can see, there's loads of different number lines here. If there aren't any that suit you, that's okay, because these have been put together and you can edit them. They're not an image, they're made up of lots of little different bits all grouped together. To tell if something is grouped, you click on it. When you click on an object on your page, you get this toolbar at the top pop up, your marquee handles toolbar, and the yellow symbol there, or if you're running Active Primary, that's actually red, is your group symbol. If it's yellow or red, it means that that function is turned on, so things are grouped together. To ungroup them, you just untick it, and then if we were to select things, they now move separately. So you can pull these numbers out if you want to. You could pull this whole, you know, number line apart. Don't really want to do that, so I'm just going to put them back together. But by double clicking on the text part, it opens that text box and you're then able to edit that. And let's say I want to make that, say 1.5 or whatever, because I'm changing the scale here. All right, so everything there in that folder is editable. A lot, in fact, almost all of the resources in your resource library are able to be edited or added to or changed in some way. Now, we could really quickly make a little activity out of this. So I'm just going to use this number line here. What I'm going to do is use a pen. I'm going to grab yellow because it's the same colour as, oops, except I don't want to block out that one, as my boxes. Doesn't matter what colour pen you use, but I like to be nice and neat. Oops, she says, making a pig's ear of it. Let me be a bit quick about this. Okay. Quickly cover over those. I'd be doing a lot neater if I wasn't in such a rush. Okay. If I wanted to, I could then also group all of those things. So just to show you how to group, we select everything and we click that box to make it yellow. Okay, now I'm going to come to my shape library. I'm going to go, or my shape tool, I'm going to extend it. Oh, come on. Oh, I'll do it with my finger on my mouse pad. And choose my arrow. Let's make it a red arrow, like so. And I can swap this arrow to make it look a bit different if I wanted to. There we go. And pick up my mouse cursor again because I need to rotate this now. If I was making this on a touch board, I could rotate with my finger and fingers and thumb or whatever. Okay, I am now able to use my arrow in this activity to point to one of the blank boxes I've created, because obviously in this activity what I'm wanting to do is encourage my students' learning or understanding of the order of numbers or their place of value. And I now want to be able to check that answer. So remember on this page we had these great little invisible squares. I'm just going to come onto this page, right click, copy, come back onto this page, right click, paste. Now I'm going to move that so it's somewhere a bit more useful. Oh, gosh, that's embarrassing. Now you see my very, very messy desktop. Yes, I would like to open it. Okay, let's jump ahead. Okay. Don't know what happened there. Oh. Doesn't want to move. I'll just move him to there. Now, the reason I selected him and grabbed him with that little X to move is because drag a copy is set. And if I just tried to grab on the box, I'm pulling up the little see-through magic square. Now, I very deliberately put that little magic square on last because it has magic ink in it. Without going into great detail about why and how magic ink works, just know you have to put your magic ink revealer or your magic revealer onto your page last in order for it to see through things. That way you don't have to worry about changing layers and all sorts of yucky things like that. It just works. Very, very quickly, you're able to download packs of these that other people have made. So I'm just going to switch into my library for a second. I'm going to roll up my maths folder and roll up my subjects folder so we don't get lost. Here is a resource pack that I've downloaded from Promethean Planet. I believe it was made by Cal Hathaway, this one, who's a wonderful IT guru from the Canberra Goulburn Catholic Education Office. And oh, some of them aren't showing up. Let's grab a beetle. And my computer's obviously not wanting to play ball this afternoon. It's been on too long. There we go. I can now use these magic revealers. So there's loads that have already been made. resource pack on Planet. If you're not sure how to download or find resource packs, I've done a little tutorial video that you can watch on our YouTube channel. Okay, let me jump to this page. Speaking of resource packs, I'm going to jump around a little bit here. I'm going to show you something since I'm already out of the subjects folder. There is a fantastic, there's my resource packs folder, I'm looking straight at it. There's a fantastic resource pack called New Zealand Primary Numeracy Working, and in here have been put together a whole lot of resources for teaching place value and number stuff. Australian teachers, don't be put off because it's been made for New Zealand and in line with the New Zealand Numeracy Project. Maths is maths when it comes to stuff like this, and as I'm going to show you, it's easily stuff you would use in your classrooms over here. So, for instance, we've got TEMS frames that are already made up for you here, or you've got your blank one, come on, that you can pull on, and of course a button that you could then add to each of those. I'm always a fan of using my pen tool. If you just wham it across to really fat and click once on your page, it makes lovely round dots, so you can fill in that way as well. Moving up a little bit here, place value. They have put together a pack, they being ActivBoard NZ, who created this resource pack. They've put together the place value houses for you, so you can just pull them out and use them. They've put together numbers here, so you've got numbers with drag a copy and you can pull them up as you need them to use in your whatever you want. You've got words, groups of words here. So they've done all the work, they've typed them all out, and you can just add them to your page. So lots of really useful quick fire stuff that you can pull on and use without having to do any hard work. They've done some different number lines for you, and this folder here, the number games, is well worth a look. They've got all sorts of things. I'm going to show you two things. I'm going to show you the fly flip cards. So straight out of your pink nump book, the fly flip activities for Australian teachers. This is an activity to promote, well, there you go, you can see I'm learning to solve problems like 5 plus a number equals 9. So they're finding the missing number with patterns of 5. So you're looking at your 5 plus 1, 5 plus 2, 5 plus 3, and so on problems. And they've created a flip chart here. So I'm just going to double click on this and open it. And here we have our fly flip cards. And if I just pull these over, you can see they're actually two cards. So 5 plus 0 equals 5, obviously. 5 plus 1, 6 is 5 plus 1. 7 is 5 plus 2, and so on. So I'll just reset that. I'm just going to grab all of those together. So I've selected them all together. And I'm not sure why it wasn't working properly before, so I'm just going to quickly do that. Select them all, and you're looking for the action send to back, not send backward, send to back. Choose that, then come down the bottom of the browser and hit apply changes. So select them all on your page, go to your action browser, choose send to back, apply changes, and then you'll notice now when I hover over them, they've got this little icon. And if I just move this, actually I'll do it with a different one that's visually, there we go. If I just do pull it aside so you can see what's happening, when I click on it, it's sending that card to the back of the stack. But effectively what it looks like it's doing is flipping that card over for you so you can see the back of it. Okay, so they're your fly flip cards without having to cut and paste any paper things. Okie dokie. Where were we? Back in here. Nope, in here. The other thing I was going to show you was rockets. So this was one of my favorite games, rather I should say it was my class's favorite games, many classes' favorite game. They've done a fancy rocket here. So the idea of this game is the kids are rolling dice. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces that they've got to fill on their rocket, and the spaces are between 10 and 67. And the reason for that is you're using dice, and obviously your dice for this activity have got 6 sides. So 2 ones is the first number you can roll, and 66 or 66 is the last number you would be able to roll, or the highest number you would be able to roll, because you're using 6-sided dice. Now, I'm just going to show you, you can even edit a page like this. I would like to have 2 rockets side by side, because I would like my group at maths time to work in 2 teams up at the panel or up at the board, and they're going to be sharing the dice, but I want them to each have a rocket that they're building, because really the aim of the game is that the students are racing each other to see who can choose the best place to put their number on the rocket to finish. It'll all become clear when we have a quick game in a minute. So because everything on this page is locked down and I can't select it, what I'm going to do is unlock it all by going into design mode. So I come up to this blue cog at the top of my page, I click on it, it disables everything here. I'm going to now select my rocket, and I'm going to duplicate it with that double white page there. I'm going to shove that one over to that side, come and get this rocket here, pull him over here. I'm also going to duplicate the 67. There we go, you can go over there and you can go over there, and the 10. Okay, there we go, done. And now I'm going to go back into my normal mode, and because the properties of the shape were locked when I duplicated it, those properties transfer, so everything's still locked on my page. Now you do have dice in your maths tools, so you can open the dice roller here, but the dice roller is quite bulky, and so you probably want to be rolling the dice and shutting it and writing your numbers on the board and things like that. They have made you a lovely link with these pictures of dice down here. You can click on it and it's going to open your dice roller. Now for this game we want 2 dice, so I'm not going to change the number. If you wanted more or less, that's where you change it. We could change the speed of our roll, and of course I could roll. Now the idea with this game is we've rolled 2 dice. One of those dice is going to represent the 1's value and one is going to represent the 10's value. So this dice roll could either be 14 or 41. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces that I could put that in. Now I'm going to come and grab this team over here is going to write with a blue pen. There we go, and we're going to make sure it's not a ridiculous size. 41, I'm not sure where I would put, but 14 is pretty close to 10, and that leaves me a lot of other numbers to fill these spaces with. So I'm going to choose to write 14 in this one down here. Okay, now it's this team's turn. They're going to roll their dice. Gosh, that was a bit laborious. This could be 53 or 35. I think I would choose 53 in this instance because it's quite a high number, and it might be that I'm going to write that in this bubble up here. Okay, and so the idea is that they're taking turns to roll the dice, but they are trying to fill their rocket first. Now, if they rolled the dice, and if this team rolled the dice over here and they got 55 or 2 5s, they haven't got a space up here to write 55, so they would in fact forfeit writing any number down. So you see there's quite a bit of logic and reasoning and what have you, discussion that will go on about where to place the numbers. So you're getting all of those lovely collaborative skills coming out, as well as your place value emphasis and reinforcement. Okay, I'm going to move on Now, back in our subjects folder, let me roll up that folder so that we're not getting confused. Come here, library. So back in our subjects folder at the bottom of our library, we've unrolled it. We've found our mathematics folder. We've unrolled that. And we were having a quick look in the number area. We saw that we had number lines. We've also got number jigsaw here. So for instance, I've got a grid that I can pull on the page or a frame. And then all of these are segmented pieces of the jigsaw for building 100 square, essentially, which is quite nice. So you can set up a little activity for the kids to do there. Now, of course, remember we were talking about the fact that these were editable. If I select, let's do this one, it's grouped. That's a sign that you can edit it. You need to ungroup it. Double click, look at that, I can edit the text. Now, if I wanted to make this, say, 300, but I want it to all fit in that one square, I would obviously have to reduce the size of my font. Oops, yep, a bit more. Okay, but it could be done. And the reason I'm thinking I would turn it into 300, I'm thinking of, actually, I should have turned it into 130, is what I was actually thinking. Let me change that, 130. I'm thinking of, again, New Zealand Primary Numeracy games or activities, the thousands books. So this can now, instead of being a number grid from 0 to 100, it can be from 101 to 200, or from 100 to 200, and then from 200 to 300, and so on. So you've got the jigsaw that you can work together with higher numbers. We've also got in here a wonderful folder called Place Value, and we're just going to have a look quickly at the link I've put on the page here. So this link goes out to a website. It's a digital learning object from, sorry Australian teachers, I seem to be using a lot of New Zealand resources. I promise that that was not intentional and that they are cross-Tasmanian usageable. It was purely by chance when I was looking things up. You've got a digital learning object here where you can be adding together the base 10, sometimes they stack up one on top of the other, the base 10 blocks there, and it totals up for you what that number is down here, and then I think you can spin each one of those, like so. Now, the reason I wanted to show that was because whilst it's good that you've got access to things like this on the internet, and why would you recreate it if it's there, sometimes it might not quite hit the mark for what you're wanting the kids to do, or sometimes it might be a bit clunkier than what you would like. So in here, I'm going to show you that you have got the resources at your fingertips should you wish to create your own activities similar to that digital learning object. So we could have, for instance, pulled out of the place value folder, just get rid of that off the page, this place value chart, if you will, and I do have tens and one blocks here, and yes, you can see they are proportional, and I could set drag a copy to those, which I do by selecting both of them. Then I would right click over top of one of the images. They're a bit small, so sometimes I use Cheat's right hand click, officially known, as you can see by that tooltip, as the object edit menu. Cheat's right hand click sounds better. Drag a copy at the bottom of that stack, and now, just like those magic squares before, we can drag across, oops, she says, let me move them a bit closer. We can drag across as many of those oops, stay there, as we would like. Oh gosh, what's happening with my computer? Okay, and of course then the kids can do a tally up here at the bottom. If you wanted to add a different element to that, you could add a random number generator. Now there was a random number generator up here in the numbers folder. I don't really like this one as much, so I'm going to go back up in my library out of the subjects folder, further up my list to lesson building tools, unroll that gadgets folder. Here I have a 2-digit random number generator, and I just click play. You saw I could shrink it. I just click play like that, and there you have it. As the kids now make 33, and then they would randomly get another number, and this time they're going to make 18, and so on. So you can build your own little activities like that. Now, I have a caveat here. The random number generators work perfectly on Mac. At the moment, I believe there is a slight hiccup with them working in Windows or in some Windows machines. So don't shoot me if your number generator doesn't go. It will one day. It has done before, it will do again. All right, but you can build your own activities like that, and that wasn't exactly taxing. I mean, it might not look as pretty as it could, but it was fairly quick to put together, and perhaps it might suit my class a lot better to have that sort of activity than the one that was pre-made on the website. All right, I also wanted to go back into, so I'm back in my subjects folder, I'm back in the mathematics folder, and I'm back in the place value. Roll up numbers, we're done with you. I'm back in the place value folder. Now, you've got base 10 cubes. If you don't like these ones, and by the way, you could make those bigger if you wanted to, a bit titchy and small. If you don't like those ones because they're just a bit 2D and you're more into 3D, you can pull out your 3D ones and do exactly the same thing. Also, we've got color here. And just rotate them. I might do it that way. Looks a bit better. Okay, there you go. And you can drag a copy to those. All right. Any questions on any of that so far that are coming through, Laurie or Yvette, that you maybe haven't been able to answer, or lots of people are asking the same thing?
I haven't seen any questions so far.
Okay.
It's been okay.
That's good. Maybe I'm talking too fast and no one can keep up. Thanks a bit. Okay, I'm going to crack on then. I just saw a question flash up there. Can you have the link to that? Remember that you can download the split chart from Promethean Planet. All of the links and all of the examples, plus all of the notes that I've written for each page are on, it's on Promethean Planet, and it's just a download for you. I think Yvette actually sends out the link to where you can download the flip chart from too, but I'm not 100% sure.
Exactly.
You do? Great.
Yes, it is.
Great.
It is. Under the chat functionality, you have the link for that videos back.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to crack on. Right, we're going to do something now called magic writing. If I was working with a kindy or a junior school class, of course I could call it magic writing. I would never call it that for older children. Basically, I'm going to choose a pen. I'm going to choose the same color as my background and a reasonably fat pen. That's probably fat enough, but I might make it a bit fatter. And I'm going to write on the board. And obviously, because I'm using the same color as background, it's not going to show up. So the kids are having to look at, or the students are having to look at my formation of the, in this case, number. You can do it with letters as well, but obviously we're doing a maths focus and a number focus at the moment. So it's very important that or when it's students' turn to have a go at doing the magic writing, they stand to one side or the other as they're writing it, and they write it really big and clearly so that everyone has a fair go of being able to see what number it is that you're trying to write. So I'm going to do a 2-digit number, not that I would tell the kids that. Okay, so my number is going to start over here. Hopefully you can all see my pen mouse moving on the screen. Okay, that was my number. I could ask you all to chat in what number you think it is, and perhaps while you're doing that, I'm going to explain how I would reveal that number, or how a student would reveal it. They come to choose the flood fill bucket or the paint bucket off their toolbar, and they choose a colour that, thank you Claire, always count on you to answer a question for me, and you do get it right. Choose a colour that is not the background, and they're going to flood fill the background. And what do you know? The answer is revealed. Okay, so this is an activity that would be a good hook or a good focusing activity. The kids all want to see the number, they all want to guess the number, they all want to be the one to come up and reveal the number. So it's not something I would repeat 50 times in a lesson, but it's a good hook to grab their attention, grab their interest, and of course it's relative to our number knowledge, how we form the numbers, at least at the kindy level, and it does tie in nicely with our place value, because we could not only do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-digit numbers, we could also be doing decimal numbers, for instance. So let me put a blob, that's our decimal point, that blob, and you know, you could do numbers to 1 decimal place, 2 decimal place, 3 decimal place, or whatever. So over here I'm going to write this number, and over here I'm going to write this number. And now, if we use our colour, there we have 1.6. Okay, so it's something that you could use for fractions instead of a decimal point there. You could have your fraction bar so that you're doing a numerator above and a denominator underneath, and so on and so forth. So it's a very quick, easy and adaptable little idea. It's leading me on now to my main kind of idea, which is using colour for place value in number systems, or in other words, using colour to help represent place value or emphasise place value, so that especially for those visual learners, it helps to partition the number, it helps to perhaps hook their understanding of the concept a little better. Now, we must start by looking at the decimal number system, which is our current number system, or our everyday number system, if you like. And obviously in the decimal system, we have 10 digits that we use, and they represent different amounts or different sets or amounts of items, I guess, if you will. So, you know, here's 0, it means you've got nothing. 1 means you have this many things. 2, this many. 3, this many. 4, this many, and so on and so on and so on. And when we get to 9, we actually run out of digits. So what we have to do is roll over and start using those digits again, but in a different order. And so, of course, I'm speaking to people who already know the decimal system inside out, but bear with me. We start rolling over. We've got our 1 and our 0 that we're using again, and this time they represent 1, 10 and 0 ones. And when we get to 11, 1, 10 and 1, 1, 12, 1, 10 and 2 1, and so on and so on and so on. And so when you are explaining place value to kids, you might end up doing lots of different things. Most of us end up looking at ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, or whatever columns, or talking about those. We perhaps write the things out in words. So this number 348 is 300s, 4 tens and 8 ones. That's what each one of these digits represents. And we might write them in expanded form. So that means that 3 lots of 100, 4 lots of 10, and 8 ones. Depending on the level we're talking to, we might also be, or we probably should be, talking about the fact that each time we're moving over to the left, or each time we're moving up to a new place value, each time we're rolling over, because we've run out of digits again, we're timesing by 10. And you might talk about the exponents of that. So 1 being 10 to the power of 0, 10s being 10 to the power of 1, hundreds being 10 to the power of 2, thousands being 10 to the power of 3, and so on and so on and so on. So this is great, you know, simply using pen to write this. Now I did deliberately choose to do a black background with a white pen, just to show you that sometimes that in itself can be more interesting to look at than a white screen with a black pen. But to me, this is not necessarily visually stimulating. I'm a visual learner, and whilst this is okay for me, I can figure out what it is. If these were notes given to me, I could look at that and figure out what it is that someone's talking about and doing. But nothing pops out at me. It's all very samey. So if I just show you the next page, and all I've done is used a coloured pen instead, suddenly this is a lot more visual. This helps my understanding, because my ones, regardless of how I've written them, are all green. My tens, regardless of how they're written, are all purple, and the hundreds red, and so on. So that has helped segment that up. It's just such a simple, easy concept. And yep, it took a little extra, a few seconds extra to go back and choose that coloured pen when I wanted it. Or if, like me, you'd actually written it all in one colour, then go back and choose my flood fill tool, because you can do that and you can just flood fill the numbers. It might take a little extra time, but it might also be key to helping even one particular student suddenly grasp that concept a lot more clearly. Now, it might seem a bit fiddly to do, but if you're starting to look at different number systems, such as the binary number system, I can tell you it is exceptionally helpful with the place value. So, as many of you may already know, the binary system or base 2 system is what our computers and electronics tend to run with, because it's a very easy language or system, number system, for them to cope with. If you think about that, it's logical, because computers and electronics are made up of switches, and those can either be on or off. And in the binary system, we've got 2 digits, we've got 0 and we've got 1. So in other words, we've got on or we've got off. Now I've left over here our decimal numbers, just as a bit of a reference for us to put into context. But base 2, whereas we had hundreds, tens, ones, and whereas we were multiplying by 10 each time we were progressing up through our place values, in base 2 we're multiplying by 2, because we've only got 2 digits, and we start with 1s and 2s and then we run out of digits. So we're rolling over to 4s, 8s, 16s and 32. So instead of 1s, 10s and hundreds, we've got 1s, 2s, 4s, and then 8s, 16s, 32s, 64s, and so on. So let's have a little quick look. This colour business and as you can see, I've chosen a different color for each of the values, like I did for hundreds, tens, and ones. It comes into play a lot when you're trying to write numbers using the binary system. So 0 still means 0. We've still got no items here. One item in binary is still 1 because we've got 0 and we've got 1. But then we've run out of numbers. So when we get to 2, we now have to roll up a place value. And that looks like this. Okay, we've jumped into the 2's column. So we've got a 2, 1, 2, and no 1s. It looks like the number 10, but in binary, this is how you write 2. And for 3, we've now got not 11, we've got 1, 2, and 1, 1. Okay, there's 2 and 1 make 3. And as you can see, very quickly, we're already up to 3 digits here, and we're only up to the number 4. So when we're getting up into the higher numbers, it really helps to be able to have the different colors to represent the different bases or the different place values that we've got. So for instance, if I'm reading the number 9, this reads as 1, 8, no 6s, 1, 8, no 4s, no 2s, and 1, 1. So it's basically saying 9 is 8 plus 1. It sounds confusing, but it's actually quite logical and very interesting when you start to have a look at it. But I can tell you that using color will definitely help you keep track of these columns and values as you go, especially if you're a visual learner. All right, so we're going to move on very quickly and race through the last couple of examples. I'm moving on to a new concept now. I'm sure that we've all used and probably will continue to use matching activities in our classrooms. They're often a good tool for formative or summative assessment or simply to reinforce or solidify a concept. So a matching activity is a simple idea, and as such it's pretty simple and quick to make. So something along these lines. Over here I have got the digits or the numbers 0 to 5, numbers I should call them, 0 to 5 in the decimal system. And over here I've got the numbers from 0 to 5 in the binary system that we've just had a quick look at. And the matching activity would of course be matching up the corresponding, we'll see who can remember from this page, the corresponding numbers, like so. Now, this could be an activity, or matching activities can be for whole class situations, small group situations, individual learning situations. Regardless, what I want to do is add an element of randomness. What I don't want is what I just did for if we're taking turns at the activity, those first turn takers to be able to do the easy option or find the harder options by a process of elimination. I want to challenge the kids' comfort level and their thinking. So the best and easiest way I can do this, I'm just going to bunch up the answers over here, is to hide them under a box. So I'm going to come into my shape. I'm going to choose yellow and black, and I'm going to draw a rectangle over the top or a square over the top like that. Now at the moment, if I go to pull one of those numbers out, that box is moving all around. So I need to lock it down. I just right click and I say locked. Okay, now I can tell when there's something to pick up because my cursor changes from a normal cursor to one with a plus. So now the kids are hovering here and they're going to drag out, ooh, where are they going to put that? Okay, it goes there, 1, 4, no 2s, no 1s. Okay, so you can see there, randomly got a slightly harder question than I would have chosen myself had I been up there being able to see all of the elements. Okay, Let's have a look at this matching activity idea in a few different variations. So this is an example courtesy of Peter Kent, a highly esteemed former colleague and friend of the Promethean ANZ team. Here the students are drawing out an equation and they are going to place it in the box that they think would be the most suitable method for solving that answer, okay, like so. I can see that this would be a good collaborative activity for a group left up at the board or as a starter or plenary activity for a whole class moment. Next example. Kiwi teachers, by the way, if you don't get the joke on this page, I'll be very disappointed. Here we have an example of writing very big or very small numbers in scientific notation. For those who can remember back to their own Year 9 maths lessons, it's all about using the exponents, clue, or powers of 10. So the students would draw numbers out from behind the box or behind the image in this case, and they would be, there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there we go, wrong one. They would be matching the numbers like so, okay? Now, two things to explain about this page. How did I get the scientific notation? And I think I said I was going to show you how you can write fractions or mixed fractions and things like that. Come to your main menu, insert, equation, then click on your page. You'll notice my cursor's changed to the little pi symbol. It opens you, clicking on the page, opens you the equation editor, and you've then got all of these different mathematical things you can use. I'm going to come into here, and I think it was this one I used with the little exponent option there, and I typed whatever my number was, 1.5, and then I went over to this box and stole a multiplication sign times 10, tab across or arrow across on your keyboard to the power of, let's say, -8. Hit OK, and it plonks it on the page for you. Now, it always comes on black, but as you can see over here, mine are white. All I did was I grabbed my paint bucket, I chose a different color, and I flood filled by clicking once on it, and it flood filled all of it. So, second and last thing to explain, if you don't know who these people are here, they're a classic Kiwi band called the Exponents. Right, on to our very last...
We'll all laugh at that, Claire.
Thank you. At least someone did. On to our last example of the matching activities. Here we have, thank you, Claire. Here we have, we're learning to count to 10 in Maori. We have got the finger patterns or number patterns to 10. These are in your resource library. I'm going to show you how to use the search. Look at this. Search hands. There you go. There's all of the hands or all of the things in the library tagged with the keyword hands. So they're there for you to use. Over here, we have got the text all randomized down the side here. And as you can see, when I pull it on, it also has the word there. So, oh, that was lucky, right next to it. You know, I can pull these across. And then there's an added element here. There's a self-check in that you can click on here to hear the sound. You can hear the dulcet tones of one of my lovely former classes there. So if you want to know how to put sound on a page, go back and rewatch webinar 1 and 2, or join us for the next webinar because we'll be doing it again then. Right. On to the last examples. I'm going to have to drop the last two because we're really getting close to time. Back to ready-made examples here for you. Fractions I get asked a lot. Probably the topic I've been asked most about over the years, and all I can say is there are bucket loads of resources out there. If you do a quick search on Promethean Planet for fractions, you will turn up over 750 resources. Okay. If you haven't explored Promethean Planet yet, sign up and have a go. Watch webinar 3 for some help there. And of course, you've got ready-made stuff already in the library like this. This is from that lovely activities folder that we were in before. It's a fractions wall. They've set it up so that you can be pulling on your bars here. Let's say we're looking at halves. We've got 2 quarters and you know, which ones give us halves, and you know how to use fraction more. Also in here, let me search fractions. Now usually when you do a search, you want to do a search for plural, for singular, but the last 2 searches I've shown you have actually been plural. You've got an equivalent strip you can pull on. These fractions, things that come out, are all to scale. So for instance, half, 2 quarters would make a half. So you can build your own resources out of there, and you've also got your segments for fractions in a pie. There's a really good page here, fraction bars. They've again done all the hard work, and again you've got notes here with loads of different ideas on how you could use this page. Basically, you're clicking on the buttons here and they're showing you the bars. I'll just jump across to here, and you can be comparing those, but of course you can also be using your flood fill tool to shade in a portion of those. Okay, so what fraction of those are purple, what fraction are orange, and so on. Moving on, this is our last example I'll probably share with you today. This example also comes courtesy of Peter Kent. I had a picture of his book there, which it came from, but it somehow disappeared when my computer crashed. But the book is called, what is it called? Secondary Teaching with Interactive Whiteboards, and it's published by Macmillan if you're interested in looking further, secondary teachers. It comes with a disc, and on the disc are all examples like this. So this came off that disc. Over here on the left, you have got fraction bars, and over here on the right, you've got decimal bars, so they're equivalent. Of course, you've got your options here to pull them down and compare equivalents, like so. And you could be also comparing the equivalent with decimals and so on and so forth. But what I really like about this particular one, I just have to get my little pen here, is it's a great setup for a visual investigation. So, I mean, we were doing a small visual investigation there, but let's say we were writing a problem on the board. Let's say we wanted to see, well, that's a ridiculous size pen. Let's say we wanted a half plus a quarter plus 2/8, and we want to know what that's going to equal. Okay, visually we can work this out. Let's use our number line. Let's pull down a half and put it on our number line. Let's pull down a quarter and add that to that, and let's pull down 2/8. And what do you know? That's going to equal 1 whole. And then we could also look at, of course, the corresponding decimals. Now, what I love about this is it takes something that can otherwise be quite, not boring, but quite a hard to visualize concept, and it puts it into visual form. So it's, you know, the kids are not having to try and imagine a half, they can see the half. They can then move forward once they've mastered that concept and visualize it in their heads, but it gives them that concrete material there. Now, in the flip chart that you'll download from Planet, if you want to download it, there's a couple of extra activities, as you can see here, that I'm just not going to get time to go through today, I'm sorry. There's notes in the browser there, but the whole reason I wanted to do examples about money was that I wanted to point out to you that as part of your resources in your resource library, or your resource browser, in the mathematics folder there is money, but as you can see, euro, pound and US dollar. So New Zealand and Australian money is there. It's a separate download, so you need to find the resource packs for them on Promethean Planet. And when you download them, you double click on them, you choose wherever you want to send it. I send mine to my shared library and they go into my resource packs folder here. And you can see Australian money there, and further down we've got New Zealand money. Okay, including the new money, courtesy of ActivBoard NZ, updating that resource pack. So just the only point to note there really is that money is a separate download. Okay, and that brings us to the conclusion of our webinar today. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully there was something there for you to take away and try out in your own lessons. As always, our contact details are on the screen. Please don't hesitate to contact if there's anything we can do to help you with your Promethean journey. Ka kite anō, and see you again, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everybody, for attending. We'll catch you for the next one. Thanks, Yvette.